Greetings from Ormond Beach, Florida. This is the Charles Report for Friday, September 26th. And what has happened in the last week is 20 innocent people have been gunned down and killed by police departments across the United States in a continuing reign of terror. It's hard to believe the way that this situation continues to unravel. It's actually the power structure that seems to be unraveling as a result of the militarization of police departments all across the country, and an attitude of that the public is the enemy, and us versus them mentality on the part of the police departments. And no doubt, many of these victims were young African American males, but not entirely. A shooting in South Carolina, where an individual was stopped by state police, and an African American young man, and when he attempted to get his license from his car, was shot and nearly killed. In New York City, a pregnant woman was thrown to the ground and handcuffed on her stomach while she tried to intervene while her son was being pummeled by police. It's really shocking, and it's just a further indication of a power structure in the service of a ruling class that is becoming increasingly unhinged. As I understand it, as the article I read stated, there seems to be, from the World Socialist website, WSWS.org, that there is concern in official circles of rising civil unrest as a result of these many police shootings, and a number of new police fatalities have occurred in the St. Louis area, where the officer Darren Wilson, an investigation, but no arrest, in the assassination of Michael Brown. All across the country, I think there's great concern and trepidation regarding the police and what is ongoing. But I think it's larger than just the police. I think it's an attitude on the power structure today that that power structure includes Washington, D.C., the executive, the Congress, and all levels of government, that we, the people, can't be trusted, that we are the enemy, and hence the need for a national security state that spies on us constantly, that we have an entirely new, ubiquitous spying regime where there is no real freedom, and everything it's almost like everything we think, do, and say is being monitored by the national security state. And it's basically because they do not trust the American people. We are the new enemy. And the curious thing is that the ruling class in this country, they're no longer even part of this country. They offshore their wealth. As I understand it, $38 trillion of offshore untaxable wealth, unaccountable for. Apple Corporation, for instance, offshores all its profits. It's shut down all its manufacturing, moved it to China. I mean, this is just typical of the way these big corporations and the ruling class operates. And these are the people who buy and finance the political campaigns and put this power structure in place. And this is an illegitimate power structure that is being seen as such by more and more people. Mr. Obama's attempt to divert public attention through the use of war is a classic desperate attempt on the part of all power structures to whip up patriotic fervor and get people to step into line in regard to what the rulers want. But I can sense that people aren't buying it, and the tenor of the times is that increasingly, I mean, these police shootings, 20 in a week, it's really, like I said, it's indicative of a power structure that has become truly unhinged. And the fight back in Ferguson is just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm really grateful that the African American community is willing to stand up and defend its right to live in the face of this terror. And I can tell by looking at news reports that they're not alone. That people from the mainstream culture are stepping up and accepting the fact that this is something that affects us all. So it's really it's a good thing to see this happening. That people are coming together. That the power structure, the ruling class, and its governing power structure cannot continue to play us like a harp from hell by dividing us, one race, ethnic group against another, women versus men. I mean, this is not working. I still think there are a lot of separatist type trends in the country, but more than ever, I see people uniting behind these issues and beginning to see that this is something that affects everybody, and this unhinging of the power structure is really a threat to our lives on so many different fronts, and it's just typical of it's capitalism in an advanced state of decay. And thankfully, there's a publication, an online publication like the World Socialist website that makes this clear to people. There are other alternative news sites, but I like the World Socialist website because it's a news aggregator site. It gathers information from various sources and puts them together in one article, and then and it's well sourced, so that if they mention an article from the New York Times that they build a story around, you can go to the New York Times and read that, or the Los Angeles Times or whatever. So I mean, I read it for that purpose. But this is really what we're witnessing is really an advanced state of decay of capitalism, and it has become increasingly more exterminist in its nature, and the spate of ongoing police killings is indicative of that, but so are so many other things. The continual endless war that we've been presented with since the Bush era, and now with Abomination in the White House, it seems to be even getting worse with the power structures confrontation, engineering of a coup, a junta in Ukraine, and using that as justification, using Russia's response as a justification for a possible NATO intervention. They're really it's really unbelievable, and people are afraid to think the unthinkable, that this power structure has become so unhinged that they will present us with the prospect of a nuclear war with Russia. And that's just one aspect of the exterminist nature, the increasingly exterminist nature of the U.S. power structure, and capitalism and the West generally, and the U.S. as the leading economic power of the West and the leading capitalist power, and hence we're the center of the crisis here, and why we need to step up, why we the people, why the sleeping giant of world politics, the American people, need to step up. And we're beginning to see that. And that's what has the power structure here so concerned and unhinged, is the fact that they can see what the possibilities are for them, and they don't like that. They want to maintain control at any and all expense. And they're willing to risk a nuclear war if that's what it takes to maintain their fantasy about a total and complete world domination. And for us, this is potentially suicidal. And we have to stand up. But getting back to this idea of capitalism and its presently highly decayed state, becoming increasingly more exterminist on many fronts, we have the Ebola outbreak in Africa. And I was just reading that by January they're predicting possibly 1 million cases of Ebola in Africa, and this thing may not be contained. And the fact of the matter is that area of Africa has been subject to so much imperialist intervention, corporation control. It's basically controlled by corporations that have devastated the economies of these countries, which are actually very rich in natural resources. I think it was Guinea or Liberia has half the bauxite in the world, and there's no reason for the incredible poverty and deprivation that these people are living under, with no real public health services at all. Not to mention, even private medical care. And so this is why this disease, this terrible disease, the most deadly disease ever known, is ravaging Africa. And of course, Obama's response, the response of the U.S. power structure is always send in the Marines, which is exactly what they did. They landed the Marines on the beach in Liberia. They think that for every problem, there's a military. The only solution is a military solution, and this is part of their unhinged nature. That they have no other approach. They don't trust the world population. They only trust power, and for them, it's power comes out of the barrel of a gun. And that's the attitude that they're taking towards the world population, and most especially towards we the people. So this Ebola crisis is very serious, and I think that they would like to have us think that well, once again, I think there's a subtle playing of the race card here. That it's an African problem, just like what's happening in Ferguson, Missouri, is an African American problem that doesn't affect us all. That this isn't a larger issue, and this is the way that the power structure and its media mouthpieces and servants basically like to spin things. It's very subtle, but Africa is an area that has suffered under colonialism, under neocolonialism. It's been exploited. You have puppet regimes in these three countries that are basically beholden to the West, and that's so that corporations, not just American corporations, but French and other British corporations, can get in there and basically rape the country and rape the people. And I don't know how else to put it. And it is just another aspect of the increasingly exterminist nature of capitalism in this present decayed state. And I think that people are sensing this. And I see a new willingness on the part of people everywhere that I talk to re-examine these things in light of new information. And that's the fact that capitalism is not working. I mean, it's working for the 1%. Excuse me, actually the 1/10 of 1%, to be more precise, but we'll say 1%. And these are the people that basically own and control finance capital, and with the financialization of the economy, meaning that that there is less and less actual production taking place, that profits are made through stock buyouts and such, and keeping stock prices high. CEOs that give themselves massive multi-million-dollar pay raises as a result of that. So anyway, just something to think about tonight, and I appreciate your 14 minutes of attention. I hope I've given you something to think about, and I hope I've given you something to feel good about, that we the people have had enough. We're stepping up. We're taking control of things. There is a revolution in human consciousness taking place in this country and all around the world, and we can deal with these problems. And I want to thank you very much for giving me your attention tonight. I hope this has been informative, and I will hopefully be seeing you again tomorrow. And once again, I thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you, and wishing you a very happy day. Bye-bye.